Welcome to Speak English with Energy.
Hey everyone, welcome to Speak English with Energy.
Today we're talking about something really important for English learners.
You know, I was thinking about a job interview I had a while back. I knew the answers to all the questions, but when it was time to speak, I just froze. It was like my mind went completely blank, and I couldn't say a word.
That sounds really frustrating, Victor. I think we've all been in situations where we know what to say, but the words just don't come out.
Exactly, and it's not just about interviews, it's about any situation where we need to speak English.
So, let's explore why this happens and what we can do to improve our spoken English.
We'll share some tips and strategies to help you feel more confident when speaking English.
And hopefully, by the end of this episode, you'll be able to speak English with more energy and confidence.
I had an interview last year where I knew the answers. But when the interviewer asked me a question, I just froze. It was like my mind went blank, and I couldn't say anything.
That sounds really tough, Victor. What did you do?
Well, I took a deep breath and tried to relax. I remembered that I had prepared for the interview, so I knew the material.
It's great that you were able to calm down and focus. But what about when you're in a situation where you're not prepared?
That's a good point, Lisa, and it's something we'll discuss later. For now, let's talk about why we freeze up in interviews.
I think it's because we're worried about making mistakes. We're afraid that we'll say something wrong and embarrass ourselves.
Exactly, and that fear can cause us to freeze up.
So, how can we overcome that fear and speak confidently?
One common misconception is that we need to be perfect in English to succeed in interviews.
I've seen that happen to many friends who are fluent but still get nervous.
I remember a friend who had a job interview in English. He was well prepared, but during the interview, he froze up when asked a difficult question. He told me later that he was worried about making a mistake and embarrassing himself.
That's so relatable, and it's something many of us can learn from. What if, instead of focusing on being perfect, we focus on being prepared and confident?
That's a great point, Lisa, because confidence can make a big difference in how we come across. My friend, for example, could have taken a moment to collect his thoughts before answering. He could have said, "That's a great question. Let me think about that for a moment." And then provided a well-thought-out answer, even if it wasn't perfect.
I love that example, Victor, because it shows that it's okay to pause and think. It's not about being perfect, it's about being genuine and showing that you're thinking critically.
Exactly. And that's what interviewers are often looking for. Someone who can think on their feet and communicate effectively.
So, what can our listeners try this week to improve their interview skills?
One thing they can try is practicing their responses to common interview questions. They can write down their answers and practice speaking them out loud. This will help them feel more comfortable with the material and confident in their responses.
I think that's a great idea, Victor, because it's all about preparation and practice. Another thing they can try is recording themselves and watching the video. This will help them identify areas for improvement, such as body language and tone of voice.
Exactly. And it's also important to remember that it's okay to make mistakes. Interviewers are looking for someone who is genuine and can think critically.
One common mistake people make is trying to memorize answers to common interview questions. This can come across as insincere and may not even answer the question being asked.
Instead, they should focus on understanding the question and providing a thoughtful response. By doing so, they will be able to showcase their skills and experiences in a more authentic way.
I think that's great advice, Victor, and I hope our listeners will give it a try. Let's give an example of a behavioral question.
Okay, like tell me about a time when you overcame a challenge. And you need to give a specific story from your experience.
Right, so the interviewer wants to hear a real-life example, not just a generic answer that anyone could give.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so hard for non-native speakers. Because they need to think of a story and speak it in English.
But with practice, it becomes easier to think on your feet and to structure your story in a clear and concise way.
That's why we should give our listeners some tips on how to practice. So let's recap what we've learned today. We talked about being genuine in interviews and not just memorizing answers.
Right, and how that can come across as insincere. Instead, we should focus on understanding the question and giving a thoughtful response.
Exactly, and one actionable tip is to practice answering behavioral questions. This will help you feel more comfortable talking about your experiences.
That's a great point, Victor, and I think it will really help our listeners. By being prepared and genuine, they'll be able to showcase their skills and have a better interview experience.
Well, I hope our listeners found this conversation helpful and informative.
Me too, Victor, and I'm glad we could have this chat.
See you next time on Speak English with Energy.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep speaking English with energy. See you in the next episode.